All right. So, well, here were conversations with Keith, and as you all well know, no remote control, so I have to start it and then walk over to get seated. But we're in the home of Talbert Turner Jr. Beautiful home. You can't see it, but I'm overlooking a beautiful lake. We wanted that as the background, but too much light. You would never see any of our faces. Probably been good for them not to be able to see my face. Just be a shadow. They would have probably enjoyed that more.
Be good too also not to see the grass under you because
well, I think we all have those kind of things now. Talbert Turner Jr., for those of you who saw him play in the 80s, I'm sure that you're loving being able to get caught up with him and kind of see what's happening and what's been going on. Talk about some memories that we'll do. For those of you who've never seen Talbert Turner Jr. play, this is Talbert Turner Jr. So, how you been?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And conversation with Keith, that sounds great. Congratulations to you on all your efforts these days.
Well, thank you. Well, you all, we've known each other for a long, long time.
Yes.
You know I love to talk.
Well, true. But one thing I don't know if you do remember or not, but I think when I was in about the 8th or 9th grade, you came out as writing an article for like the Pilton County Wildcat letter or whatever we used to call it, and you interviewed me up on that court up there where we used to play basketball every night. That was one of my first interviews I ever did. So
really,
this will probably be my last. You were my first and my last.
Well, that's funny. That's pretty cool. It's funny because when they talked to me about how long you wrote for the Outlook, and I said, I started writing for the Outlook in the early '80s as a student. Absolutely. So, well, that's pretty cool. I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, I'll send back those pictures. Sure do. That meant a lot to me then. It means a lot to me now. So thank you for thinking of me.
I love, my family will tell that I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories, and I love giving opportunity to people to tell their stories, and that's why I wanted to be here, is to tell the stories of Pendleton County. You're one of them. One of the big ones. Well, you graduated in 1984, Pendleton County High School. I know you went to Moorhead.
Yes.
A lot of people wonder, what have you been doing since 1984?
Well, turned out to be a blessing that I did go to Moorhead, because about a year after graduating from Moorhead, a person interviewed me for a job in pharmaceutical sales who had happened to go to Moorhead as well. And that's the reason why I got the interview, and I got the job. And so I've actually been with GlaxoSmithKline, working for them for the past 28 years.
What's the company's name?
GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals, GSK. Okay. And have had that job for 28 years, done various roles with them, from sales, and then I've been in management the last several years. And it's been a great career for me, and one of the nice benefits from having that Moorhead State University on my resume that definitely helped me get that job.
Now, I know earlier you mentioned you used to oversee 12 states, so I guess this job has required an immense amount of travel.
Yes, I've lived in 5 different locations for GSK, spent a couple years in Philadelphia working in the marketing departments there.
Cool.
Also worked in some of the different divisions that required covering multiple states at a time throughout the years as well.
So what's the coolest thing you've seen on your travels? And as you can see, we kind of talked about questions, but sometimes based upon your answers, I veer off because I'm interested. What is the coolest thing in all your travels and living in other places, coolest things you've seen?
Well, the cool thing about Philadelphia, being able to compare that and contrast to Cincinnati. And I live right downtown Philadelphia, so I'm a country boy, as you can see. Living in Philadelphia downtown was quite a shock for me, quite a change.
How old were you at the time?
It was about 10 years ago. Okay. And so I lived there for a couple of years. And but I was right downtown, and the cool thing about Philadelphia is all the restaurants. Everybody knows all the restaurants, all the art, the opportunities. But that city never closes down all night long. There's always something going on, something to do. Restaurants are always open, as opposed to Cincinnati that kind of shuts it down early in the evening, and people don't flock to the downtown like they do in Philadelphia. So that was a really neat experience, seeing that and being part of that for a couple of years. But I was glad to come back home.
So I know you're a golfer. Did you get to play a lot of cool golf courses around in your travels, or did the golfing come later?
Well, I've golfed since my roommate in college, Willie Feldhouse.
Oh, I didn't know you were a roommate with Willie.
Me and Willie were roommates, and Darren and Alan, all those guys played golf, and they introduced me to golf. And so I didn't pick up a golf club until my junior year in college. Yeah. But since then, I fell in love with the game and play a lot, and certainly looking forward to what David Bay is going to do with the country club moving forward. I've been a member there for a long time, enjoyed playing golf with Phil and the guys, and my brother from time to time up there as well. So really enjoyed golf. And then, believe it or not, I've been doing a lot of muskie fishing. Me and my partner, Cave Run Lake down in Moorhead is a famous lake for muskie. Me and a buddy of mine started, there's actually a professional tournament trail for muskie fishing. He and I have been doing that the last couple of years, and this past year we actually qualified for the World Championships, and so we did really well on that tour, and I enjoy doing that as well. So golfing and fishing takes up a lot of my time.
So where's the World Championship of muskie fishing?
Well, this one was up in northern Indiana, the last one, but they do it at various states across the Midwest throughout the year. So they usually have a tournament at Cave Run every year, and they have a tournament in Wisconsin. Then they have one or two more in Minnesota or a surrounding state.
Wow. Well, I did not know that you were in this boat. I saw the two boats when you come in, so I figured, and I know your dad loves to fish.
That's the cool thing. Besides, everything my dad did for me in my life and teach me how to play basketball, he also taught me fish. And I'm very grateful that he passed that love of fishing on to me as well. So I like it too. And it's and both with golf and with fishing, it gives me a chance to be competitive. And which is one of the things I love about sports, obviously, is having that competition. It's why I love the skins game up at the club, and why I love fishing these tournament trails and fishing as well. So that competitive aspect of the whole thing is fun for me.
And you hear that a lot when you talk or you see interviews with the high-level athletes, is that competition bug never really leaves. And they transfer it to some other thing, whether it's golf, whether it's fishing. That wanting to compete bug and push yourself is still there. So that's kind of what you're talking about. It kind of feels that.
In that, and also I think that's why I've had a really nice career in sales, is because I view what we do as more of a competition than just a job. So we're trying to have a higher market share than our competitive products out there, or have a customer prescribe more of our drug than he does something else. And then we get these reports every week to track your performance, and combining that competitive aspect from my background into my current career, I think has really helped me have a really successful career at GSK as well.
Well, cool. You might have, your dad may have told this to you, back when I was athletic director, and we were doing the honoring the 1,000, and me and you may have had this conversation, we were honoring the 1,000 points. Of course, Bill scored around 1,600, David was like 1,800, you're at 3,187. And I sent out to Mike Fields at the time, wrote for the Herald Leader, probably the reporter who knows most about high school sports, especially basketball, of anybody in the state. And asked him, are the Turner boys the most prolific scorers in Kentucky high school basketball history? The only boys, he mentioned the Steps, but I think there were two of them that were only real high.
Luckily for us. Irvin scored a lot of points.
The Selby boys from Corbin, but there were 5 of them. As a group, they had scored a little bit more, but there was 2 more of them. But, you mentioned your dad and what he'd done in teaching the game of basketball, but that's something to say that the Turner boys, the 3 Turner boys, Dave, Bill, and you, possibly the most prolific scoring brothers in Kentucky high school basketball history that has a rich, rich history.
Absolutely, and very proud of my 2 brothers. My brother Dave was a very good player. Unfortunately, he did tear his ACL on a game. I think the game he got 53.
Yes, it was.
That very same night, and unfortunately had that tragic injury that really ended his career. But very good player. And my brother Bill started out slow in his career, but by the time he graduated from high school, very, very good basketball player. Great rebounder, a lot of competitive spirit and fire, and strong. And so both my brothers turned out to be really good players, and very proud of them for that as well.
And I didn't get to see Bill play as much because I was gone to Berea at that time, but of course I got to see David, got to see you, kept book. I know your junior year I kept book. You mentioned earlier that 30 years ago sometimes the memories aren't there. I can't remember if I kept book my junior year, your sophomore year, but I know I kept book your senior year. And the game I remember the most is we had like 5 overtimes. And it just went on and on and on. So I got to see you score. I got to actually record a lot of your points because I think you were averaging 30, 31 points a game that junior season. Well, let's talk a little bit more. Have you seen Dontaie play?
Not yet. I'm home. You know, it has been really challenging for me. I'm gone most of my time. I am home over Christmas break this year, so I'm looking forward. I think Keaton mentioned that they have a tournament where he's going to probably surpass my record over the 3-day stretch, and I'm hoping to be up there then. You know, I certainly keep abreast of what Dontaie's doing, and very proud of him. Great accomplishment, obviously great player. My dad keeps me informed every Tuesday and Friday night after after what he's done, and then I hear from Rookie Steele every once in a while as well. Yeah, just tremendous accomplishment. Very proud of him. Someone told me back when Dontaie first started playing, when he was in the 9th grade, he played as an 8th grader, I know, and when he was scoring all those points in 9th grade, somebody said, "Well, you know, this guy's going to break all your records." I said, "Well, if he does, he certainly has earned it."
Yeah.
And he certainly has, and I'm proud of him, and great accomplishment for him, and I wish him continued success too moving forward.
Now, you played a lot of games and did a lot of things up on the pad here in Peach Grove, and your work ethic was right there with Dontaie's work ethic. That I've seen summer him being in the gym 5 and 6 hours at a time by himself, shooting. And that's what you see as you go through from, you look at all our sports with the best players that came out of each one of those sports, you always end up and you start hearing stories about their work ethic that got them there. And I think a lot of people just think it's God-given. There's God-given talent, but there's also God-given talent that's been wasted because people didn't work hard. You had that work ethic. Is that something that Mom and Dad just instilled in you three?
Well, they did, and I'm very appreciative of everything I am and was and will be, well, to my mom and dad, certainly. But from that perspective, even from being a young kid, my mom and dad used to haul me around to play Little League, Junior Pro, Newport, Taylor Mill, anywhere there was an opportunity to play, they would take me. And then, you know, we would go to tournaments all across the state of Kentucky and Junior Pro, and gave me that opportunity. But then, as I got older, and then we started practicing and playing by ourselves, you know, my best friend, Mark Maines, who lived right across the street from me, you know, besides my mom and dad, I would, you know, I certainly am very appreciative and in gratitude to Mark. Not only was my best friend, but also he pushed me and wanted to play every single day of our lives. And we did play every day. And that's what made me become a good player. Because Mark was 3 years older than I was, and all, you know, a lot of our friends, you know, the Horns and the Roseberries and Danny, Marsh, and all those guys that would come and play all the time, they were older than I was too. So that helped me be able to play against older, stronger guys growing up. And guys that would come to the Grove, as we would call it, every single day and play from daylight till dark every day of our lives. All year long, we would be shoveling snow to get to play, and that's you know, my mom and dad and my buddy Mark and the Peach Grove guys is really what made me become a good player.
And you really grew up in this stereotypical high school basketball star story, where you're playing basketball every day, you're shoveling snow off the concrete pad to get to shoot. All the boys in the community and even other parts of Pendleton County would come and play.
They would.
And what you see in a movie that's a stereotypical is really the way you grew up.
It was. That's how we grew up. Guys would come from all over. You know, we had our own collection of guys from the Grove, but then people would come from all over the county to play. And we would play 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, whatever we had to play. And guys would stay all day long and play. And in the summer times, I remember turning the lights on our automobiles, on the cars, trucks, and we would light up our court from the truck lights.
That's funny.
To be able to keep playing until Mom finally made us come in.
And you mentioned your mom. Just for those who may not know, your dad, Talbert Turner Jr., retired from Pendleton County High School as a biology teacher. Your mom retired as the librarian. So they were involved in school, and their schedules really matched up, that they were able to be available and to take you places in the summer and during things and do those kind of things.
Yeah, very fortunate in that regard. And you know, my mom and dad, as you mentioned, teachers for many years. They really touched the lives of a lot of people. I really love seeing, you know, when people come up to see my mom and dad, and you know, they remember them from being their biology teacher or librarian from years and years gone by, and just the impact they've had on a lot of people's lives is really cool. And yes, that was really nice that the summers, we were able to go play. Also played baseball. My dad was the baseball coach for many years, and it's always great if you can play multiple sports. I think that helps any athlete in their development. And Dad was a coach for a long time playing baseball. We had a good baseball team too, and enjoyed playing baseball also.
Yeah. Let's see, you got moved up to the high school level. Was it your 7th grade or 8th grade year?
8th grade.
8th grade year.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, there were nights that there would be a triple header, freshman, JV, varsity, and you play all 3.
I play them all.
Yeah.
And very appreciative to Coach Crum and Coach Appleman for giving me that opportunity. Yeah, there were some nights I would play all 3 games, and I loved it. It was great. So for them to give me the opportunity at such a young age to get some varsity experience, and just as Dontaie has, get those varsity points, it makes a big difference in the overall career of a person. But again, I attribute that not only to the opportunity that Coach Crum, Coach Appleman gave me, but also from growing up playing against the guys at the Grove that were always much bigger, much stronger than I am. So I was able to hold my own at a pretty young age, playing on the varsity level.
Well, and I think you were an extremely smart player, that you knew the angles of the game, you knew how to use your body, and that was probably directly from that court.
Most of that was. And the way I became able to do that, my dad used to stand there at the court, and he would think of a move he would want me and Mark to try to do. And we would practice that move until we were able to do it. So maybe it was a layup where we double pumped, scored. Maybe it was a layup where we put our body against the competitor and laid it in. But all those different types of moves my dad would think of, and he would see if me and Mark could do them, and then we would do them until we were able to do it. And then I was able to take that to the game, and still, because I scored a lot of my points, taking it to the hole and drawing fouls and 3-point plays. And even in college, my coach just couldn't understand. Every time I would start going to the basket, he'd be like, no, no, no. But then I would bounce off the guy, lay it in, and make the shot. And he'd be like, oh, okay, that's fine. But yeah, I learned that from right up there on that slab of concrete. It was mostly from my dad thinking of the move, and then me and Mark and my buddies trying to emulate it till we could get it down. You mentioned your college days. If I remember right, you all went to Oklahoma, played against the #1 team in the nation. Was it McCann that was on Moorhead's team that was really? Tell us a little bit about Moorhead's experience and playing against Wayman Tisdale. That was the guy, I think that was my first college game.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I think that was my first college game, and we went out to Oklahoma, and I think they were the #1 team in the country at that time. And Wayman Tisdale, Bob McCann was a great player, no doubt about that. Wayman Tisdale, equally a great player as well. And you think of Bob being a big guy, but when you line up on a foul line against Wayman Tisdale, he was about twice as wide as Bob McCann. And so you knew at that point, it's a whole different level than the 10th region, right?
This is not the concrete pad.
This is not the pad. Now I realize I'm not at the pad, right? Because Wayman Tisdale, it would take about 15 minutes just to get around him. He was a big guy. And so, but that was cool. And that was my first college game. I remember my first basket, my first points, and it was just really neat to be able to play against teams like that and people like Wayman Tisdale, who are, he's one of the greatest ever. And so that was cool.
What was your first points? Your first basket for college? You said you remember those. What was
I made 6 free throws against Oklahoma.
Okay. But that was a big part of your game. Like you said, getting fouled, go to the free throw line, knocking them down.
It was.
Yeah. So it fits real well.
And I think I was fortunate. Can't remember if it was what year it was, if it was my first year or sophomore year, but we played against Indiana University when they have Steve Alford and Keith Smart. The year they won the national championship. I think they were first in the country that year. And then we also played against Syracuse when they had Sherman Douglas and Ronnie Cycli. I think they were the #1 team in the country that year.
Was Pearl Washington? Did you have to guard? He was the little guard.
Pearl was there, but he didn't play as much as that game as the other guys. But maybe he was in the doghouse. I don't know. But that was a great team. It was cool. Even when I remember going to Syracuse and doing our shoot-arounds in the morning. there was 4,000 or 5,000 people that were hanging around the gym just in the morning of our shooting practice. And then you play in front of the Carrier Dome when there's 40,000 people in the stands. That's really cool.
Well, I got to ask you a question. This is a Kelly Childers question.
Okay.
When you're playing Indiana, did you have to dodge any chairs that Bobby Knight threw on the court or anything?
You know what? Bobby Knight, got a couple of interesting stories about Indiana. Bobby Knight was the most gracious, competitive coach that I played against in my entire career.
Really?
We came in there a couple of days early, having practice, and Coach Knight came to both of our nighttime practices, hung around, talked to everybody. We talked about fishing. It was really cool. During the game, you walk into the Indiana locker room, and we're the competitive team. They had individual lockers for you, had your name on your locker.
Really?
Had all kinds of like a Dobb kit for you at the game. At halftime, they provided like snacks and fruit and things like that. And after the game, Coach Knight came back into our locker room and congratulated us on a fine effort, and sat around and talked for some more time as well. So, a legendary coach like Bobby Knight, who's in the Hall of Fame, and he has the reputation that he has.
Yeah.
But absolutely the most gracious, competitive coach I ever played against. And another guy like that was Bob Huggins.
Yes.
I played against Bob Huggins, and I got to be friends with John Lawyer, who was at Akron, who also went on to coach for Coach Huggins over at UC. But Coach Huggins had a very similar approach as well when he was at Akron. And we carried on, maintained a friendship while he was still in his first few years at UC. And then we've kind of lost touch over the years. But again, another person that was very compassionate and spent a lot of time with opposing players. That's different than the impression that they have.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely, yeah.
And then I told the story when I got inducted to the Northern Kentucky Hall of Fame a few years ago. But when I played junior pro, one year I played for a team called the Wheeler Dealers. And my coach was named Tom Burns and Joe Frolicker. And Tom had, I don't know how old I was, probably 11 or 12, I don't remember, 5th or 6th grade. He taught me this play where I would take, when someone would be pressuring me on defense and I had the ball, I would take the ball and take it up above him, and then, like I was going to throw a pass, and pull it back over the defender's head. And oftentimes the defender would turn around and run down the court, right? And so it would give me, make the guy not look too good, but also give me an opening to bring him off the court. So he taught me that move, which I did that move all through high school, all through college, and it only failed me one time. And the time that it failed me was I was playing in Indiana. Steve Alford, great player, All-American player.
Tremendous shooter.
He was bellying up on me full court. And I had that ball, I took it, I raised it up, and I went like that, pulled it back, and Alfred didn't even blink. He just looked up at me and said, "Not today, big boy." And he said, "It's going to be a long day." And he was right, it was. But that's the only time I can remember that it not working, but he got a kick out of that, I got a kick out of his response. And it was a great move. I'm appreciative of Tom Burns. I know he helped me get into the Northern Kentucky Hall of Fame, and it's a great honor. Thank him for that, and thank him for all he taught me over the years playing junior pro.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your game. You mentioned that play. As you look back now, or even at that time, how did you see? What type of player were you? Were you a shooter, slasher? What type of player would you tell the people who didn't get the opportunity to see you play? What type of player were you?
Well, I could shoot, and shot a lot of. We ran a lot of plays designed for me to shoot outside, obviously. But we had a very good team. My senior year, I think we won 28 games, and Mark Hargett was a really good high school player. Timmy Fallhaber, Dennis Gosley, David Roberts, Kenny Race, Ronnie Goffman. Those guys. We had a really good team, and we got the ball up and down the floor. I think we averaged. I think at one point we were averaging 87 points a game.
Wow.
And that was 1984.
Yeah.
So we put the ball in the hole. So
that's close to 3 points a minute in a game. That's a lot of points.
Without the three.
Yeah, without the three.
And so we got the ball up and down the floor. And so I took a lot, we fast break a lot. I took when we went through sets, obviously we had set plays where I did shoot a lot outside. But then I would take the ball to the basket and take it to the hole. And I drew a lot of fouls and shot a lot of three-point plays off the foul, and shot a lot of free throws. So a lot of kids, I emphasize whenever I'm around kids, man, is get your free throw routine, knock those free throws down, you can accumulate a lot of points by knocking down those free throws. And a lot of people negate that in today's game, I see.
Yeah, I agree. I remember your hands defensively being very deceptive. You weren't blessed with blazing quickness, but you were smart where you could see the play developing to get in the passing lanes. And the opposing guards, I think, were surprised on how quick your hands were.
Yes.
That you would just pick them right there at the top of the key, in between top of the key and midcourt, and end up with a wide open layup on the other end.
Yeah, I wasn't, definitely not quick, not fast, but I did have a quick first step or a quick anticipation. I did have very quick hands, which did help me get a lot of those steals, which turned into a lot of fast breaks and opportunities there. And then even in college, I think, again, my memory, it's a long time ago, but I think even in college, one of the years I was there, I did lead the OVC in steals too. So I carried that on throughout my college career as well. But yeah, I was blessed with that at least.
Yeah. And a lot of times you see coaches' children have a different look at the game because they see the plays, they see the behind the scenes of the play so much that when you're out there playing, they can see a cut coming. I mean, my daughter, she went with me on so many scouting trips now. She watches a game and she'll call plays out.
Yes.
And say, oh, this is flex cut. I mean, it's like one pass, one cut, and she knows what the play is going to be because she was there watching with me so much.
Yeah.
And that helped you defensively.
Absolutely. That's cool. That's a great experience. What I used to do is I was big on visualization. And before every game, everybody's talking on the way to the game and it's all exciting and things like that. But, the last 15 minutes of those bus rides, I would get to myself, I would stare out the window, and I would visualize plays that I thought would happen during that game, and try to think about those and anticipate what those would be, and then visualize my response or how the move I was going to make or what I was going to try to do during those games. And that helped me out immensely to be able to, when that situation presented itself, that it was just a reaction at that point, nothing that you had to think about.
Yeah.
But I owe that to just those years and years of visualizing and visualization and thinking through my mind, what's going to happen on the court and where I'm going to be during those sets, and then things that might happen and how I'm going to react to it. And I think that helped me a lot, and that helped me overcome some of my speed deficits, certainly.
I used to do that on coaches. It's funny you said that on bus trips. As we were going to the games, I'm running scenarios in my mind. So-and-so's got 3 fouls. I've got to put him on the bench. This person I generally replace them with. Who are my subs going to be? How am I going to react in this situation? Who do I want to be? Very similar. So I would get in that situation sometimes, and I already had the plan in my mind because I visualized it as I went.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions before we go on there, you mentioned your senior year team. At some point, you had a new coach. It went from Coach Crum to Coach Appleman to Gary Turner, who's back on the bench for the Lady Cats. His granddaughter, Shelby Turner, is leading scorer for the Lady Cats, and he's helping out Coach Bowling. Tell us about that senior year. It ended up going to the 10th Region Championship game underneath Coach Turner. I believe it was his second year. Just tell us more about that season. Tell us more about that championship game.
Well, I think I did mention, we did have a good team, good high school team, certainly. I think one of the nice things that we did, of course, that year, we played in several tournaments that year up to the regional championship game, and I think we either won or finished or played in the final game of every tournament that we entered.
Okay.
So that was great. It was a very competitive schedule we played back then too. We played a lot of teams from Lexington. The 10th region was very strong. And again, Coach Turner did a great job. He was a very good coach, seasoned coach coming from Campbell County, and we benefited from that. And Brent Flower was our assistant at that time. So good coaching staff, and like I said, a really good high school team. We could adjust our games to fit whatever team that we were playing against. We could get the ball down the floor. We could walk it down and run off sets and score as well. And then we had some great rebounders, some good defensive players, and then Mark. We could get the crowd turned on too. He could jump out of the gym.
Yes.
And we used to run a play, and we did a little alley-oop, and he would get up there and get it. and throw it down, and it really, we got the crowd going and excited, and it was a fun time because you know, we beat Harrison County for the first time in a long time, you know, during my years at Pelham County, and every game was a packed sellout and standing room only, and the band was, you know, rocking, and the gym was hot, and it was just a great atmosphere and a great time to be playing, and we fortunately had a really good team. And you hear people talk about all the time how tough it can be trying to win up on that hill, they call it. And you know, we had some good victories over the years up there against some really highly rated teams, and we made it a tough place for people to come in and play.
Absolutely. And I remember several Lexington teams coming up. Brian Mitchell, I think at Lafayette, Vince Sanford, Tate's Creek,
Lexington Catholic.
Yeah, some good players. And Keith Jordan at Clark County was a good player when Clark County was #1.
Felt pretty good.
I remember that junior year, us playing Mason County, and 2 stories from that game is that I'm at mid-court scores table, and I look up, and Allen Feldhouse Sr. has passed the scores table and passed Gary Turner yelling at the official.
Yeah.
He was farther down on our bench yelling at the official than Gary Turner was. Yeah. And Gary Turner just pointing at him, and the officials never said a word.
Well, Allen Sr. was a big guy, got that red face, he got mad, and very, could be intimidating, very kind guy. And as I mentioned, I was friends with Willie, and we were roommates in college, and then obviously friends with Alan and Darren through that. And so I spent a lot of time with the Feldhouses around that time after I went to college. But they had great teams in Mason County. Feldhouses were
and the
Myrick's, and Kelly Middleton. I mean, you mentioned a few others, but at that time, I mean, I don't know how many people wound up playing Division I college basketball or college basketball, but there were a lot of kids from the 10th region that went on to play college basketball. It was a very, very competitive time. But yeah, a great time to be a Wildcat too, and I think we got the program routed in the right direction, and it was cool to win all those games, and we had a good time doing it.
Now, before we talk about the championship game, it was your senior year that you scored the 59 points versus Nicholas County?
I did.
Is that right? Tell us about that game. When did you know, oh, I'm on? How did that game play out?
Well, I always felt like I was on.
Okay.
So I didn't ever go to the gym not thinking that. But for me, it was all about hitting that first shot. If I hit my first shot, I was locked and ready to go. If I didn't hit my first one, I would just say, well, I'll hit my next one, and then that would get me going. So those are the types of things that did it. But you know, the thing about that was where my heart was broken is I think my mom and dad went to every single game I ever played as a junior pro, and most of my college games. And that day, I think either my dad and mom were coming to the gym or going to meet the bus or going to Nicholas County. I can't remember, but they had an accident, and they took my dad to the hospital. He cut his ear, and I don't think he was hurt bad, but they kept him there for observation so long that he wasn't able to make that game.
Oh,
so I think it was my only game that my dad never saw me play.
He was spitting nails in the hospital.
I threw in 59 that night. So I did it for my dad. I was really disappointed he wasn't there, but I wanted to have a good game for him anyway. And it was just one of those games where everything's going in.
Yeah, one of those you feel like you could throw in the ocean. The basket's this big.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing growing up, and one thing my mom certainly instilled in me. And I had a lot of confidence when I walked on the court, and I had a lot of confidence. I shot a lot of shots, clearly, but every shot I ever shot, I thought I was going to make it. And that makes a big difference, whether you think you're going to make it or think you may not.
Yeah.
And everyone I ever shot, I thought I would make it, so that always helped me.
I used to tell my players, if you think you're going to miss it, you probably are.
Yeah,
you have to believe.
Negative. Never had any negative thoughts enter into my head. No matter if I missed my first several, you still got to keep shooting.
I would tell them, if you're open, take the shot. And they're like, well, what if you don't want me to take the shot? I'll let you know.
Exactly.
But if you're open, you've got to be a threat. You cannot be out there on the court and not be a threat. You've got to be a threat to take the shot.
Yeah, basketball is about putting the ball in the hole. It's an offensive game, certainly, and so yeah, you're definitely, that was some good advice there for your young teammates.
Well, let's talk about that championship game. Where was it played at?
Mason County High School.
So the field house,
yeah,
legendary field house.
Legendary field house. They had a little nice advantage every year being able to play the regional tournament there, but it was one of the few settings that could accommodate all the people.
Who'd you play in the first 2 rounds before you got to Bourbon County in the championship game? Do you remember?
We played Nicholas County the first game.
Okay.
And it was right off that 59-point.
And of course, Nicholas County's not in our region or district at that time. Our district would be Bracken, Augusta, and Devitt.
Yeah.
So like today, our people would be like, how'd they play Nicholas? Totally different district at that time.
So it was shortly after that 59-point game. I don't remember how long, but I do remember they double teamed me the entire game. So they kept 2 people on me, regardless of where the ball was or whatever. And the guy said, "You're not getting 59 tonight." I think that's what one of the assistant coaches told me. I can't remember off the top of my head who we played that second game. I do remember Clark County was the best team in the region that year, and they got defeated, I guess, by Bourbon County. They were in the opposite bracket of us, so we were thinking we were going to play Clark County in the final game, and they got knocked out in that second round. And I don't remember who beat them, but I do remember being up in my room. I had a phone in my room, and I remember people just started calling me, "Hey, Clark County got beat, Clark County got beat, Clark County got beat." All these people were so excited, so we thought we'd have a better path, better shot to the championship from that. But it didn't, obviously didn't work out. But I remember that distinctly, and then we wound up playing Bourbon County. Bourbon County had a very good team.
Yeah. Well, Bourbon County ended up going to the state championship game that year.
They did.
You probably guarded Jeff Royce a little bit, had something, but he hit several last-second shots throughout the region and state run that got him to there. Tell us a little bit about the game. How many points you have? Was it close? Was it a back-and-forth game?
Well, Jeff Royce, name from the past, but you mentioned him, very good player. Very good player. They had a really good team. We had played Bourbon County earlier in that year at their place, and I think we lost them by 2 points. So we knew going in we could be competitive, and we knew it was going to be a good game. From what I remember about the game, I mean, packed house, you can imagine it was a childhood dream I've worked all my life, wanting to get to the state tournament, obviously, and here was the opportunity. We just didn't get it done. We got off to a slow start. We got behind. We kept staying behind, 5, 7, 9 points the entire game, and we just never could get over that hump to get back into the game and make a run at winning. We would do something. They would come down and counteract it and make a play, and we just never could get over the hump and make it.
You mentioned Troy Still's name. I was talking to him about you and the time in that game, and he recalled that Thompson had a huge dunk sometime late third quarter, fourth quarter that really fired up Bourbon County and just seemed to be the momentum shift of Bourbon County that you all really couldn't overcome.
Yeah. Some
sort of big dunk or a big play like that that occurred.
I do remember that. He was a good player as well. They had 3 really good players, Jeff being the best, obviously, but they had 2 other guys that were good players as well. They had a very solid team and represented the 10th region very well in the state tournament. But yeah, that did happen, and that was the only game in my career that I fouled out.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I fouled out with a couple minutes left to go in that game. That was the only game that I fouled out in my entire career.
Really? In your last high school game? Wow. That's almost like it was, a script or something along those lines. You mentioned that Nicholas County was double teaming you, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask, because most people never experience going into a setting that there's a target on your back.
Sure.
Dontaie has it at the same time, even more so now that he's a Kentucky signee. They all want to make their legend against him. Yeah. You had the same thing. People double teaming you. The other team's defensive plan was set to stop you. What's it like for you and Dontaie, knowing when that ball goes up, there's going to be 5 defenders guarding you the whole night long?
Right. Well, it also is energizing knowing that too, though, and makes you really get a lot of adrenaline flowing for the games and get fired up for the games, certainly knowing that that's going to happen. You know, everybody ran either boxing one or
triangle two, probably. Yeah.
So you know, you just learn, and it comes from all the things you don't learn growing up. You know, about people pressuring defense on you, and so you just try to control the ball. You know, have the ball in your possession. That makes it tougher on them. If you give it up and then two people are on you, it's tough to get it back. So being able to give it up and cut and be able to get the ball back is important. And then also though, you know, Dontaie and myself, we feel like, you know, if you have the ball, whether it's one guy or two guys, now I have the advantage.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. A good offensive player can beat a good defensive player in basketball. And so, you know, I just tried to, you know, utilize my team. We would run a lot of pick and cuts. We'd run a lot of picks up high on the off the foul line and off the wings as well. That would help free me up and get me open as well. So just you know, Coach Turner, you know, they'd always have a good game plan to try to overcome it. We had some set plays that designed to help take some of that pressure off through picking and cutting, and then just individually just trying to make quick cuts and keep the ball in your hands as long as you can, and move from there.
You know, you mentioned something there that a lot of people, a lot of the regular fans will see the scoring, they'll see the steals, they'll see the kind of things. But I think one of the things that you mentioned that separates a good player from a great player is that motor of constant movement, constant running off picks,
right,
constantly working. The defense takes a breath and you're gone.
Right.
Because you're not taking those breaths, you're constant movement. That's kind of what you're talking about with the picks.
Exactly.
And working to get open before you ever got the ball in your hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, people get tired of playing defense.
Yes.
So, so they're only going to be squatted for a short period of time. Then they're going to stand up, and you got the momentum at that point. So definitely, you know, you have to outwork the teams going into those types of games and out hustle them, and you know, being in great shape and being able to do that, because sooner or later those defensive guys will give up on you.
And that and when they work hard for 15 seconds, right, and then all of a sudden they take a breath and you get the ball and score, it disheartens them the next time they went to guard you.
It does. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's just, if you're a one-dimensional player, you can't overcome that. You know, if the only thing you do is shoot from outside off a standing set shot, or if you only take it to the basket, you know, those tendencies, defensive players can overcome that and negate your abilities. But if you're a multifaceted player that can do a lot of things like Dontaie can,
yeah,
that's what still gives you the edge over those one or two defenders who might be guarding you, you know, when you have the ball. One
of my favorite stories on Dontaie is, of course, I coached April when she was a high school player and young. I didn't coach her junior and senior year, but I coached her when she was young, and she was just a ferocious rebounder. I mean, just a motor to go get the ball. And Dontaie has said on more than one occasion that the game's over, the first thing his mom asked him is, how many rebounds you get? Because if you're rebounding, you're working hard, and the other things will come.
Right.
And I thought, I love that. What a great mindset as a parent. If you're working hard, the other stuff will come.
Yeah.
And again, you see that. Whether it's Nate Jones, whether it's, you know, my daughter with golf, you know, whoever it may be, Connor Harper with soccer, when you start talking to them, you see a tremendous work ethic that they had through it. Well, you know, we talked about some of your career highlights, but I wondered, there's always seems like there's specific plays or specific memories that players have. Are there any that you hit a shot, you did something, and as you went back down the court, you were kind of chuckling, going, hey, that was pretty good? Any memories like that? Anything that, you know, you just pulled up right in somebody's face that was all over you and you just buried it? Anything like that?
Well, a couple of them come to mind. One of them, when we were talking about the felt houses, I think they came up to Pilgrim's the year they came. I don't remember if I was in the 8th grade or 9th grade, but it was early in my career. And that was when Allen Feldhouse was playing. He was the point guard. I think they were undefeated that year.
Okay.
And we were in a close game with them.
That might have been the year they lost to Simon Kitten in the championship game?
It was.
Okay.
Kelly Middleton, Allen, those guys. But I remember Allen coming down the floor, and Coach put me in, and I was guarding, and I got a steal. he and I were just one-on-one,
Yeah.
and I got a steal off of him and went down and got a layup on him. And I think we either won that game or it was a very competitive game. I think we did win, but anyway, that was a play that, you know, Allen was the graduate assistant at Moorhead while I was there as well. And so he's still talking about that play. He can't get over it. It wasn't that big deal for me. I got a lot of picks on a lot of people, but he still can't get over that play. And you know, funny story, you know, when I was in college, me and Willie, when I'd go home with the Feldhausen and spend the weekend with them, we would open up the field house, and me and Willie would play Darren and Allen 2-on-2 all the time. And Allen still can never get over that steal. So that was one. And then the other really cool memory I have around, it's funny I have defensive memories, isn't it?
That's
but
great.
I think we were playing Clark County. We were down by 18 at halftime. And in the second half, I had gotten a series of picks off of the guy that was bringing the ball to the floor. And we overcame an 18-point deficit to win that game in the second half. And I just remember getting quite a few steals on the guys I was guarding against Clark County and winning that game as well. So those are two that just come to mind.
That's
thinking
funny.
about my defensive powers.
I was going to say, that's funny that just short of 3,200 points defense is the
Well, I just remember just because Alan always laughed about it all the time, and it was a joke for a long time where we were Moorhead together. But talking about the Feldhouses, that was a good memory.
Well, good. Well, let me ask you, and I guess this is kind of the last play or the last question that I have down. You'll see Dontaie, you'll have a chance to probably talk to him a little bit, those kind of things. And if you don't want to share and you want it to be a private moment between you and Dontaie, perfectly understand that. But is there any advice or anything that you would say to him, anything from one all-time scoring leader to the next all-time scoring leader?
Well, I am looking forward to seeing Dontaie, looking forward to watching him play, and really proud of what he's accomplished. What I would tell him is, as he moves on throughout his career at the UK, just have confidence in himself and knowing that he's as good as anybody on that floor, and to play with that type of confidence once he gets to Kentucky. And you know, the rim is still just 10 foot tall, and if he continues to you know, work hard, get stronger, work on the strength, but to have that confidence, knowing when he steps on the court, he's as good as anybody else out there, and to play that way, he's going to have a great career at Kentucky as well.
Well, hey, thanks for sitting down, talking to me.
Hey, before you go though, man, you know, and I appreciate you coming out and talking to me, and I wanted to thank you too for that original article that you did a long time ago. I mentioned the impact my mom and dad had on my life, and Mark and the Grove guys, but also, you know, we talked briefly about Coach Crum and Coach Turner, but also Mike Appleman was a really instrumental in my development as a player. I just want to acknowledge him as well, along with, you know, those subset of people that I just mentioned, because he took a lot of time to work with me in the court after practice on individual fundamentals of the game, and very indebted to him for all that he did for me over those few years while he was there. And he really had an impact, a big impact on my development, and want to say thank you to him as well, and very appreciative of his efforts and his willingness to help me get better as a player as well.
And I think that speaks a lot to the quality of a person that you are, that 30 years later, you're wanting to make sure to give that thanks and that appreciation to somebody, knowing and recognizing the development that they played, or the role they played in your development. That I think that, you know, that speaks loads, that you want to make sure somebody's remembered.
Well, good. Well, I'm very grateful to all those people that I mentioned. Without all of those people, I would just been you know, a blink on the wall, and those records wouldn't have been there without all those people. But every one of those helped me in different ways, and helped me score all those points and achieve what I did. Not only playing basketball, but what I've been able to achieve throughout the rest of my life as well.
And I think you alluded to it, the atmosphere in that championship game was just electric. And Pendleton County is known in the 10th region as we have the best fans. When you go back, and as 10th Region Athletic Director Association President, I did the research to see. And when you look at the top gate games, Pendleton County played in it.
Yeah.
They bring fans, and the other ADs, while they don't want to lose to us, they want to see us be successful because they know we're bringing fans. Dontaie's experiencing love from the community. I think you experienced love from the community. What was it like during that time, just the overwhelming support you had from the Pendleton County community?
It was cool. I mean, it was cool. And, you know, I'll never forget it now. The only drawback of that is people remember it from back there. Now they see me now, they're like, were you the guy? That wasn't you. Yeah, it was great. So a cool story is I remember during the regional finals or during the regional tournament that year, we would take the same bus route. And there was a group of fans somewhere along the way that would be hanging out waiting for our bus to come by. And one of the fans had torn down a road sign and had taken red paint and wrote TNT on the side, and he was holding it up on the side of the road those 3 nights. And then one night I'm at home after the year was over, and I'm looking at my yard, and that road sign was in my somebody throwing it in my yard.
And middle name is?
Just an N.
Just an N. And that's where TNT, for those of you who don't understand why that was painted, that's the initials, TNT.
Just an N.
So it doesn't stand for anything, it's just an N?
Just an N.
Just an N.
Just so I could be TNT. But I'm a firecracker. My dad was the original Dynamite TNT senior, but I'm a junior. So yeah, but that exemplifies the types of fans that we had. I mean, like I said, man, it was a lot of fun going to that gym every Tuesday and Friday night because it was packed and it was hot and
no air conditioning back in those days.
The band was rocking. They would play TNT from AC/DC and stuff, and it was a really good time. And we had a great school atmosphere that senior year. And but it's because of we were winning. You know, winning breeds that type of atmosphere, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for sitting down with me. It's great catching up with you. I haven't talked to you for so many years. Maybe we saw a couple times at when baseball teams were playing and those things. But thanks for sitting down, just having a conversation, reliving a little of the glory days.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, now I'll see you up at the high school that's during the Philip Wood Classic, which is December 20th through 22nd. Based upon what he's scoring now and averaging 42 points a game, if you can keep that, I mean, that's just phenomenal. I mean, you can appreciate, you